Hey, it's PJ here, aka Big Pants. I wanted to bring you this video because I've had a few people lately asking me on Facebook in my inbox how I retouch my photos, and in particular my band promos. So I thought I would just chuck it into a video, and anyone who's interested can watch it and visualize instead of me trying to explain it. So here it is. This is a photo that I took. It's from a shoot I had a couple of weeks ago with Melbourne band in Dreams Like These. I'll put a link to their Facebook page in the description and you can check them out if you want to. So this is the raw file straight from the camera. No adjustments have been made, as you can see in the side panel here. This next photo, it's the same image. I've just done my basic adjustments. So what I've done is just got the exposure where I wanted to. I've masked out the sharpening because Lightroom applies its default sharpening to raw images. So when you slide this little slider across here, it masks out, it chooses how much you want to mask out. The black bits of the photo do not have the sharpening applied and the white bits do. So you want to take it out of all the smooth areas of the photo if you like, and just sharpen the edges. So that looks pretty good. And I've just corrected the lens distortion because I shot this on a super wide angle lens. So I've fixed that, and the other thing I've done is take out the chromatic aberration. So once my basic adjustments are done in Lightroom, I'll then take the photo into Photoshop by right clicking and edit in CS6, and that will open the file in Photoshop. Okay, so now that we have the image open in Photoshop, the first thing I'm going to do is duplicate the background layer twice. So hit Command J and we're going to hide the original background layer. That's going to be used as our reference, and we're going to use it to compare the different steps of the edit. So my editing process has 6 main steps. I'll put them on the screen now, and if you want to skip forward to one, feel free to click on it and do that. So the first step is the heal/stamp process. So basically I'm just going to get rid of any parts of the image that I don't want. This light stand here, there's a bag and the cigarette packet. So grab your clone healing stamp. It's just over here, or the shortcut is S. And you're going to make sure the opacity is on 100% and the brush is as soft as possible. So now you're going to zoom in and hold the option key to take a sample, and then just paint out the bits of the image that you don't like. It's not too hard, but it is a little bit fiddly, so just take your time and be careful and you'll get it right. For the sake of this video, I'll just skip ahead to when it's finished. Cool, so now that that's done, let's just compare before and after. Sweet, so now that that's done, the next step is the healing. And what I usually do at that point is grab the healing brush, which is the shortcut is J, or it's just this icon here. And I would go in close and fix up any spots or pimples or just anything from the faces. But having a closer look, these guys actually all have really good complexions, but I'll just show you guys anyway. So with the spot healing brush, you just simply click on any spots that you want gone, And these are just freckles, so I wouldn't usually remove these, but these are it's just to show you guys. And that's it. I would go individually and do that, but they all look pretty good, so I don't even have to. Cool. And so the next step, let's just merge down the layers, Command-Shift-E, and duplicate again. The next step is the tighten up contrast. So what this basically does is just makes sure all the tones are nice and tight and punchy, and for that I'll grab a curves adjustment layer and zoom in a little bit, and I'm just going to bring the low mids down as little, like the smallest amount that I possibly can to be noticeable. A little bit more. So just really subtly bring down those low mids. That's good. And with the high mids, I'm just going to bring it up slightly. So just the opposite. And if you have a look, it just adds a real subtle contrast. You might not even see that on YouTube, but it just makes the tones really punchy. Cool, easy, and Command-Shift-E to merge that down. And the next step is the dodge and burn. So duplicate the layer, and O for the dodge tool. Make sure you've got the dodge tool selected. With a really low exposure and mid-tones selected, and a soft brush. You're going to go in carefully and just dodge in all the highlights on the face. So I really have to stress at this point that you're not creating contrast, and this is not making up for going wrong in the way you lit your photos, because I noticed that a lot of photographers, what they do is the contrast or the tones on the face might not be right where they want them to be, so what they do is they dodge and burn the crap out of an image and it just looks bad. So just be subtle, and you're just creating shape in the face and just emphasizing the good features and trying to not emphasize the bad ones. So I'll skip to when I'm done. Or another quick tip as well is when you light an image like this, or even if it's just the sun or your speed lights or whatever, you'll usually get a streak in the hair, a streak of light. So a quick tip is just to dodge in those streaks, and when it comes to sharpening, that'll make it look really shiny. Cool, so just do that to all of them. And when that's done, you can just compare with the extra layer that we have. And it's really subtle, as you can tell. Probably go and dodge it a little bit more there. Cool, and now we're going to do the opposite with the burn tool. So just go in and burn all the low lights, all the shadows. I like to emphasize the jawline and the cheekbones in particular to just create some interesting shape in someone's face. Sweet, so now once that's done, we can just use the layers to compare, and as you can see, again, it's pretty subtle, but it just adds some nice shape in the facial features and emphasizes the jawline and the cheekbones, which I really like. Easy, so now let's zoom out and flatten that down, Command-Shift-E, and let's compare with our original. And it looks good. So on to the next step, which is the selective sharpen. So let's duplicate that layer again and hide the background, and in the filter we're going to choose high pass filter, and I like to keep it subtle, so around 3 or 4 pixels is fine for most of what I do. Hit OK, and we're going to change the blend mode of that layer to soft light, and that sharpens the whole image. I'll just show you. On, off. So that filter is across the image, and it works really well, as you can see, but there are parts of the image that are smooth, like the sky here and the skin tones and even the the white t-shirt. So those bits you don't want sharpened, because that's just going to introduce noise, right? So you're going to hold down the Option key and hit the quick mask button down here, and that's going to create a little mask layer and fill it in with black. So then what you do is hit B for brush tool, and with the opacity right back up, you're going to go in individually and paint the sharpening back into the hair. And jewelry, any jewelry they might have as well. And also the eyes. And as you can see, it just really creates some contrast in the textured parts and just makes the image pop. So that looks good, and I would carefully go through and do it to everyone, but I'll skip ahead to when it's done. Cool, and just show you to compare off and on, off and on. And again, it's pretty subtle, but it really adds to the picture and makes those textures just stand out a lot more. And because we've left most of the image unsharpened, it makes the sharpened bits look that much, more intense. Cool, and that looks pretty good, so let's flatten that down. Duplicate again, and we're going to create a new layer now. And for the next step, we're going to create a really subtle vignette. So with the brush tool set to black this time, we're going to lower the opacity right down to about 2 or 3%. And with a big soft brush, we're just going to paint in a little bit of a vignette around here in this new layer. And what that does is it just darkens the corners to kind of draw your eyes in a little bit to the center of the image. So you can see the difference in that layer there. And the cool thing about doing it in a new layer is if you think you've done it a little bit too intensely, you can reduce the opacity and bring it down a little bit, but I think that looks good. So let's flatten all that. And the final step is to add your watermark. So what I would do is just copy it and paste it, resize, and just put it where you want it to go. And the cool thing about if you've got your logo watermark white on black, you can change the blend mode to screen, and it removes all the black from the image, and then you just reduce the opacity. And I think that's pretty good. So let's merge those layers and let's compare the finished product to the one we started with. So as you can see, all the tones in the face are really tight and punchy. The eyes and hair are sharpened so they stand out a bit more. and I've removed all the unwanted bits from the image too. So when you're happy with it, hit the save button. It's really important not to hit save as, because that's where you change the file name. But if you've taken it from Lightroom, if you hit the save button, it'll save the image and it'll appear right back in Lightroom where you started with it. So here's the final product. As you can see, the retouch process was not too heavy. There's not a lot of, there's no skin softening, or there's no heavy retouching done in that sort of way. It's just make sure the tones are good, shape the face, selective, sharpen, vignette and watermark, and that's it. This is what we started out with. You can see it's still a good image, but it's just not as punchy and as polished as it should be. So that's it. That's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, please let me know, and I'll be happy to make more in future. Thanks for watching, and see you later.